Am I the a-hole for leaving my girlfriend stranded in another state for cheating? Went on a vacation with my girlfriend of 5 years down to Tennessee from Michigan on winter break. My girlfriend grew up in Tennessee until her family moved up to Michigan when she was 12. It was a big reason I had a crush on her when we were teens because I thought her accent was very cute. Her and I both go to the same college, and we met in middle school when I wouldn't stop bugging her in class. We drove down to Tennessee in my car and were planning to stay down there from the 2nd to the 7th. We have our classes begin again on the 10th. Anyways, we were having a great time. We visited a bunch of awesome sites in Tennessee, and she showed me the town her family lived in before she moved. We were staying in a hotel on the 5th, and while she was sleeping, I noticed some guy kept Snapchatting her. I was like, who even is this? So I took a photo of her arm saying, yeah, what's up? He replied saying he was thinking of her and asking when she was getting back. I messaged him saying the 10th and asked him what he wanted to do when she gets back. He said he had a few ideas and a winky face. I asked him for revealing photos to make sure he was definitely already doing stuff with her, and he sent them almost immediately and asked if he'd be seeing hers. I was so livid. I woke her up, freaking the heck out on her. She was shocked and denied it at first, but she eventually admitted they were talking but never hooked up. I told her we were done, and I started crying and freaking out. I told her I was gonna sleep in the car so we wouldn't get kicked out for a noise complaint, and I left the room. When I got in my car, after a good hour of thinking and ignoring her texts and calls, I decided, screw it, I'm going home. I didn't care about my suitcase or clothes. I just started driving home. I blocked my now ex's number and drove through the night. I woke up the next morning to my ex's mom calling me, freaking out about how I left her halfway across the country and how it didn't matter what she did. It's criminal negligence to leave a girl alone in that state. Well, her parents ended up driving all the way down to get her, and now my ex came up to my house today and told me they were going to try to file a criminal case against me and if not that, sue me for damages? I don't think I owed her a drive home. It's my car, my gas, and she cheated on me. Can I get in trouble from this? What I've read, it could be possible if I left her in a dangerous situation, but I left her in a hotel. Now for the top comments. She's an adult in a hotel. There was nothing criminal about you leaving her there. Her family and her are a-holes, and you leaving her lying cheating butt was deserved, not illegal. Don't worry about their empty threats. I'm worried she will embellish and cry domestic violence. Do you think she'd lie to the cops? Because I'm getting the vibe that she would. Talk to an attorney just in case. You left to avoid getting noisy. Wouldn't have occurred to you to hit her. According to Tennessee, this is how they define criminal negligence. Criminal negligence refers to a person who acts with criminal negligence with respect to the circumstances surrounding that person's conduct or the result of that conduct, when a person ought to be aware of a substantial and unjustifiable risk that the circumstances exist or the result will occur. The risk must be of such nature and degree that the failure to perceive it constitutes a gross deviation from the standard of care that an ordinary person would exercise under all the circumstances, as viewed from the accused person's standpoint. Not the a-hole. I would have done the same. Don't want to find out? Don't fool around. I believe this only applies to dependents, such as elderly and children and disabled. Even if it didn't, she was safe in a hotel. All he did was inconvenience her. If she's an adult, you're probably okay, especially since she came home unharmed and you didn't touch her. She did deserve it though. Don't take her back. Even if she isn't an adult, he is okay. He has no legal duty to her. This is just the mom Karen, upset over her cheating daughter. Next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my wife she isn't a single mother? Me, 31 male, and my wife, 28 female, have been married 7 years. We have 3 kids, 10, 7, and 4. For the last 6 years, I have been the sole income for our family. I work up to 60 hours a week, sometimes 7 days a week. Despite this, I still come home and do housework, like the cat boxes and cleaning the bathroom. My wife, on the other hand, does the dishes maybe once every other week and is supposed to be homeschooling the kids. I say she is supposed to be because I work second shift, so I leave at 4 p.m. and get home around 2 a.m. When I wake up at noon, she is always in bed next to me and the kids are playing the Switch in the next room. She says she does the schooling between 8 to 11 because she read that kids only need 3 hours when you're homeschooling, and she also doesn't do Mondays. When I go to work, she's usually at her TV playing video games, and the kids are still on the Switch. Anyway, I confronted her about the homeschooling and she got really angry. She said how dare I question her parenting, since I'm never home and she's basically a single mother. This isn't the first time she's called herself a single mom, as I've heard her say it in front of my parents and her mom. I told her she wasn't a single mom. I spend every moment I'm not at work or sleeping with them, and I work hard to provide because we are still financially struggling. She was going to get a job after the kids were all in school, but then decided to homeschool. I told her calling herself a single mom is insulting to mothers who are working and doing everything completely on their own. Well, now she's not talking to me and asked me if I wanted a divorce as she always does when we have an argument. Am I the a-hole, or am I right to tell to stop calling herself a single mom? Not the a-hole, but you need to get the kids tested and see what their education level is. Then put them in public or private school, have your wife get a job, and then both of you get some marriage counseling. Divorce should never be used as a threat unless they are prepared to follow through. Yes, get your kids into school. You're doing them a social and academic disservice by letting this go on. I'd say yes to the divorce too. Not the a-hole, but honestly, you need to help your kids. Never mind conflict between you and your wife. Your kids' future depends on them getting proper schooling and they aren't getting that at home. This is educational neglect, and you can get in real trouble for it. Please demand immediate change for the sake of your children. You could start by just having the kids evaluated. This could save you a lot of arguments. If their scores come back and they're behind in their education, you have factual evidence that they need to go to school. If their scores come back and they aren't behind, you can focus your discussion on other problems. As an actual single mother, this crap really makes me mad. Not only am I the only parent, I'm also the only one financially supporting my son and myself. Your wife basically has a cakewalk. Not the a-hole. Put the kids in school/daycare and send her on her merry way to find a job. Even if it only pays for the little one's daycare, at least he'll certainly be learning something each day. Yep, I want to puke every time I hear a married mom complain that she's basically a single mom since her husband is at work all the time. I can't believe how many people will actually say this stuff out loud and have no idea how entitled they are. So they think single moms have magic money showing up in the account to afford their lifestyle? Sure, there are those lucky few that do get a good amount of child support and or have retired parents that they live with, so they don't have all the bills on their back, and they have free childcare at home. But for so many of us, we have to be the breadwinner and at-home parent as much as possible. I only got child support in a blue moon when I'd get a check garnished here or there. Had to work 60 to 80 hours a week to maintain a household entirely on my own income, and still make it to all the sports game, performances, parent-teacher meetings, and be around as much as possible for general parenting and nurturing. Basically had to cut out sleep and any personal time, hobbies, friends in order to achieve this. Meanwhile, single married moms complaining that they missed a coffee date this week with a friend because the other parent who financially supports them was busy, financially supporting them. Next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my husband that I will no longer participate in family vacations if his ex is present? Here's the background. While on study abroad, my husband Robert got his foreign girlfriend Elizabeth pregnant. Their relationship was rocky and they've been broken up since Tim was about 1. I met Robert when their son Tim was 3 years old. Robert and I have been together 13 years. When I met Robert, he was upfront that Tim always comes first, and unfortunately is a package deal with Elizabeth until Tim is old enough for solo international travel. This was unfortunate because at that time Robert and Elizabeth hated each other. My parents-in-law have always paid for plane tickets for Elizabeth and Tim to visit. Elizabeth and Tim usually visit for 2 to 3 weeks every year. Robert always requested my presence for these visits to build a relationship with Tim and, at least the first few years, for moral support dealing with Elizabeth. Elizabeth has mostly been nice to me, although it's very superficial. We are not friends. She's fine with the in-laws because they're very nice people who just want a relationship with their grandson and would never jeopardize that access. Robert and Elizabeth's relationship gradually improved, and by the time Tim was 7, they were in friendly terms. Being required to spend 2 to 3 weeks every year staying in the same house as my husband's ex has always been at minimum uncomfortable for me, at times extremely difficult and painful. But I tolerated it without complaint, without fully expressing how hard it was, because I've felt that my main job here is to support Robert. I've been holding out for the goalpost Robert identified early on, that when Tim is old enough to travel alone, presumably Elizabeth will no longer come with. Well, that time has arrived. Tim is 16, traveled alone to visit last summer, and it was awesome. However, Elizabeth said she wants to come visit again this year, and continue doing so every other year, no end date stated. My parents-in-law will never stop paying for plane tickets, and never suggest Elizabeth not come. In fact, 2 years ago, prior to Tim's first solo trip, they assured Elizabeth that she is always welcome even after Tim is an adult, that she is family too. Statements/events like that have amounted to death by 1,000 cuts, in which have been experiencing serious depression surrounding Elizabeth's visits. I feel like that goalpost I was holding out for has vanished entirely. So, I told Robert that I will no longer be present for the full family vacations when Elizabeth comes. I will hang out for 1 or 2 weekends only. He knows I'm fully on board with vacations. That do not include Elizabeth though. He is hurt. Says my lack of presence shows everyone, including Tim, that I don't care. I say that a stepmother cannot form a relationship with a stepchild when the mother is present anyway. And these visits are causing me extreme emotional distress. So it's time I take care of myself. Because no one else is considering my emotions here. So Reddit, am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Where is she staying when she comes? With your in-laws? I just want to make sure you understand correctly. Instead of having your stepson come to visit and stay with you and your husband in your home, your in-laws hijack the trip by paying, which then forces you and your husband to go stay at his parents' house for 2 to 3 weeks in order to see his kid? Does your husband have any legal custody and does he pay child support? I feel like the child should be coming to visit and stay with you in your home at this point, but husband should be paying and arranging. Why are the grandparents doing this? This is a messed up custody situation, and it sounds like it is due to your husband relinquishing his parental control to his parents. Sounds like he's the a-hole. It's combined where they stay. The in-laws have a big house, so they host for a couple weeks, which Elizabeth prefers because that area feels more like home to her as she spent the summer there. Then Elizabeth and Tim come stay at our home for a week. The grandparents pay for the trip because they can afford it, are generous people. And if they didn't buy the tickets, Elizabeth could never afford to visit, and thus Tim. Thus, they would have no relationship with their grandson. My husband would not be able to afford paying for both Elizabeth and Tim to visit. At this point, however, we could buy Tim's ticket, which I would be fine with. There's no possibility for legal custody given to 2 different countries. My husband has sent her money every month since Tim was born though. Would your husband be willing to pay for a ticket for just him? If so, then plan his next trip, without Elizabeth, in advance, and have your husband tell his parents that you two are hosting Tim this time. If they're truly kind and generous people, then they will accept that their son wants to be in charge of his relationship with his son now. If they are secretly people who like to be in control and or trying to get their son and ex back together, then they will show their true colors. If your in-laws insist on hosting a second visit for Tim, then let them do that. But that's their vacation, and you don't need to be part of it. And Elizabeth can stay with them. Stop hosting her in your house. Not a-hole. He laid out the boundaries on this at the very beginning and you abided by it. Everyone has a limit, and if you've reached yours, then you've reached it. You've respected everyone's feelings, and now they need to respect yours. Last story. Am I the a-hole for telling my wife if she converts to Islam, I'm divorcing her? Been married 4 years and together for 7. Love my wife with all my heart. We started dating back in high school and have been inseparable since. Back when we were first started dating, she was a Christian. I am an atheist and not super thrilled about religion in general. Well, she ended up falling out of Christianity after a couple years of dating and has gone with the agnostic label since. The last handful of months though, she seemed to be interested in Islam. She'd watch YouTube videos about it, and I noticed she had a Quran app on her phone. I asked her what's going on, and she said she's been feeling a call to be a Muslim. I asked her how and why, and she said she saw some videos of a street preacher, and it made her look into it, and now says it connects to her more than Christianity did. She's a type who goes through a lot of phases though, so I assumed it was just a phase and short-term interest. Well, the other day, she came up to me and said she wanted to get a prayer mat and wanted to try wearing a hijab. We live right outside Dearborn, Michigan, which is one of the largest hubs of Muslims outside the Middle East. She asked if I'd want to go with her to pick them up, or if I'd be okay with these things. I told her that I am not comfortable with it, and I would probably want to separate if she started wearing a hijab especially. She got pretty sad I said that and asked why, and I told her I am not interested in being with someone who is religious, especially not someone who is visibly religious to the point they won't show their hair. She said she understands why I might not like it, but threatening to divorce over it means I don't love her. I do love her, but I'm not willing to become part of the Muslim community, or to be with a woman who wears a hijab, or someone who would have to start eating halal and stop and pray multiple times a day. Christianity was okay because she wasn't overtly religious and was already wading in it by the time we started dating. She says she doesn't know what she wants to pursue, but is really upset that I'd leave her if she chose to fully convert to Islam. Not the a-hole. If she changes what the relationship is about, then the relationship has changed and there are consequences for that. If this isn't something you're interested in dealing with, then so be it. It doesn't mean that she's the a-hole either, since she can do whatever she wants with her life. But if that's incompatible with what you want to do with your life, then it makes you two non-viable as a couple. Not the a-hole. Changing your belief system is a big deal. Not the a-hole. People get divorced for all kinds of reasons. If she changes from the person you married to a different person, you don't have to stay married. If she converts to Islam, she'd probably be happier married to a Muslim anyway. If she converts and OP doesn't, they're automatically divorced according to Islam. The tenets of her new religion nullify any marriage between a Muslim and a non-Muslim, or a non-practicing whatevers. Not the a-hole. She is making a radical change in her life which will affect you. If she's going to full hijab right from the start, she will probably get into all the other things too. No alcohol, no pork, no talking with other males, bringing up children as Muslims, etc. This is big, and you absolutely have the right to say no. I speak as a Christian, but if I became fundamentalist, I could not complain if my wife refused to go along with it.